Hello again. I posted MVI 8578. Can someone explain what a moderate Muslim is? I want to share some of the comments. The first one is from my Russian correspondent that I made mention of earlier, and I posted a number of her comments. She wrote, "A moderate Muslim is a myth. It's like calling us moderate Christians or calling a Jew a moderate Jew. The term is wrong. It's just a media propaganda way of confusing the global population. There is only Muslims. The common Muslim civilian, which is the majority, never will take a weapon to do harm. But they are always under terror, pressure, and manipulation of the extremist terrorists. Many times Muslim civilians have to choose between death, to be tortured, to be raped, or escape or serve to the extremist terrorist. In the moment a Muslim agrees to take a weapon from the terrorist group, London or Washington, that Muslim already crossed the line to become a mercenary and an extremist terrorist. Few people know this, but Muslims are the biggest victims of extremist terrorism because many times they feel isolated because many countries and people look at them as the same evil. They do not have the support and tools to resist the will of extremist terrorists in their region. Most terrorist groups are in the United States, and their products, like al-Qaeda, are funded by the United States. What can a common Muslim civilian against those groups full of American money and U.S. aid do to resist? Another one wrote, Gabor, drop the term moderate Muslims. It's meaningless. Devote in their practice of their religion, but they would only be considered, quote, modern and the quote, Muslims, since moderate was often taken to mean not hugely observant. Meanwhile, those who have committed appalling acts of terror and who were often far from religion in their earlier lives would immediately be considered real or full Muslims. Shalom. Sneaky Muslims are taught to act and preach peace until they gain more control. CAIR. The so-called Muslim activities really have ties to terror organizations. And here, to lie to unbelievers, because Muhammad taught them it is okay to lie to unbelievers. Actually, it's a requirement. There is really no such thing as radical Muslims or moderate Muslims. Either you obey or you don't. Many Muslims choose to ignore the violent verses of the Quran and Hadith books and make excuses for it because they're embarrassed and try to make excuses. Well, I'm inclined to sort of agree with that, which is what I've said before. How is it that two people can read the same book, two Muslim people, and one comes away with this ideology of slaughtering, raping, murdering, and the other doesn't, yet they've read the exact same book. They've read the exact same phrases. That's what I don't understand. How anyone could think that someone that believes in the book would think differently. You either believe or you don't believe. And if you believe, how can you just believe certain phrases that you want to believe and not believe other phrases? I sort of get in the picture why I don't believe there are moderate Muslims. there are Muslims that are just waiting. You know, I've made mention of this a few times. Surveys have been taken, and a large percentage of Muslims in the United States, more so than not, would prefer Sharia law. Look what's happened in England. There's 85 Sharia law courts. If a Muslim commits a crime in England, they're not brought up against the English law if they ask to be tried in a Sharia court. So let's assume a Muslim rapes a young girl. English law would probably imprison them for countless years. Sharia law would probably reward them. So if you were a Muslim inclined to rape, which system would you prefer? If you were a Muslim, would you not want to have multiple wives so the government would pay you for each wife that you have for social services? How insane is it that the British Parliament pays a Muslim with multiple wives for each wife that he has? Wouldn't that be an incentive to have a whole lot of wives? I'm actually surprised that that hasn't been adopted here, but then again, it may very well have been adopted here, we're just not made aware of it. There's nothing that won't do to support his fellow Muslims. That's sort of what I think. I want to thank my viewers for taking the time to comment. I hope you take the time to listen to what they wrote to me. And if you find it to be in line with your way of thinking, please pass it along to your like-minded friends. Thanks for listening. And for those of you that contribute, thanks for contributing.